There's a quiet kind of power that most never notice until it's gone. You see it in the way she listens, the way she stands in a room without needing to speak. Not because she's trying to be mysterious, but because her presence says everything words cannot. She's not the loudest. She's not always the most seen. And yet, when she's not there, everything feels a little less whole. In a world chasing image, noise, and validation, the woman who dares to move from a place of truth becomes unforgettable, not by performance, but by being. She doesn't demand to be kept, and that's exactly why no one wants to lose her. What makes a woman truly irreplaceable isn't built in a day. It's carved from silence, from solitude, from years of choosing what's real over what's easy. It's in how she handles her joy, her pain, her longing. Not by hiding it, but by owning it, quietly. And so we begin. Not with a guide to becoming someone else, not with a list of tricks to gain affection, but with 7 truths, subtle, unshakable, that live deep within the kind of woman who doesn't need to compete because she has already made peace with herself. Let's begin with the first truth, a truth so rare, so misunderstood, yet so vital, it shapes the very foundation of her presence. She does not chase love. She becomes the kind of woman love cannot help but find. There's something profoundly magnetic about a woman who is not waiting to be chosen, but is already in motion, already whole. She is not chasing a missing piece, not scanning the horizon for someone to complete her story. Her life is already full, not of distractions, but of depth. This first quiet truth is simple, but revolutionary. She chooses herself first, not out of selfishness, but out of wisdom. From a young age, many women are conditioned to please, to adapt, to shrink themselves to fit into someone else's version of love. But the woman who becomes irreplaceable rewrites that script. She doesn't wait for someone to show her she matters. She already knows. And that knowing radiates, not as arrogance, but as quiet certainty. You see it in her boundaries, not walls, but firm lines drawn with kindness. She can say no without guilt. She can walk away without drama, not because she lacks feeling, but because she's not willing to lose herself to keep someone else. This isn't the kind of woman who manipulates or plays games. She doesn't need to. Her strength lies in clarity, in presence, in self-respect. When Carl Jung spoke of individuation, he described the journey of becoming one's true self, no longer fragmented by roles, expectations, or unconscious patterns. That journey is not loud, it's not glamorous, but it is powerful. And this woman, the one who knows how to be alone without being lonely, has walked that path. She's faced the silence and made peace with it. She's met her own shadows and stopped running from them. She's not waiting to be saved. She's already done the saving for herself. This is what makes her irreplaceable, because the love she gives isn't rooted in need. It's born from overflow, from abundance, from the richness of someone who already feels complete and still chooses to share. When she enters a relationship, it's not to be filled, it's to expand what's already full, and that changes everything. She doesn't need to be loud to be heard. Her silence speaks louder than most people's noise. There is a presence some women carry that makes others sit up straighter, speak more carefully, breathe more deeply, not because she demands respect, but because she embodies it. It's not in what she says, but in how she exists. This is the second quiet truth. She carries inner stillness, the kind that calms the room before she even speaks. We often associate power with motion, with being visible, assertive, dominant. But real power, the kind that cannot be faked, often moves in silence. The irreplaceable woman does not need to convince, to argue, to prove. She doesn't need to interrupt the world to make her presence known. She simply is, and that's enough. People are drawn to her not because she entertains, but because she listens, not because she fills every silence, but because she honors it. Her calmness is not passive, it is alive, aware, anchored. It's the kind of calm that comes only from someone who has weathered storms and no longer fears the wind. Jung once said that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. This woman doesn't waste her energy reacting. She observes, she reflects. And when she does speak, her words carry weight because they come from presence, not performance. You feel it in the way she looks at you, in the patience she holds, in the clarity of her gaze. She doesn't rush to respond. She doesn't speak to fill silence. She speaks when something real is ready to be said. And perhaps the most disarming thing about her is this. She is not trying to be impressive. She's not trying at all. She's simply connected to herself. That quiet within her becomes a mirror for others. People find themselves slowing down around her, thinking more deeply, feeling more honestly. Not because she asks them to, but because her energy gives them permission to return to something real. She's the still point in a spinning world. Not static, not stagnant, but centered, steady, grounded in something far beneath the surface. That's the kind of presence you never forget. She is not afraid of her shadow. She has made peace with the parts of herself others are still running from. There's a depth in her that cannot be explained by experience alone. It's the kind of depth that comes from going inward, not once, but again and again, to face what's uncomfortable, what's hidden, what's been shamed into silence. This is the third quiet truth. She embraces her complexity, without apology, without fear. Most people try to simplify themselves. They edit their personalities to be more acceptable, more digestible, more liked. But she does not dilute her truth for comfort. She does not clip her emotions to stay small. She understands that her contradictions do not make her broken. They make her whole. Jung's concept of the shadow speaks to those parts of ourselves that we suppress, the anger, the grief, the need, the wildness. But the woman who becomes irreplaceable is the one who no longer banishes those parts to the dark. She welcomes them home. She listens. She integrates. And because she has faced her own pain, she does not flinch at yours. She does not turn away from difficult conversations. She does not avoid discomfort for the sake of appearance. She shows up fully, which means she also allows you to do the same. There's nothing more liberating than being seen by someone who doesn't require you to hide. She doesn't ask you to be perfect because she has stopped demanding that of herself. Her vulnerability is not a performance. It's not selective. It's not romanticized. It's raw, clear, honest. The kind that stays quiet not because it's ashamed, but because it doesn't need to scream. She knows that healing doesn't always look graceful, that growth often begins with grief. That strength is not the absence of feeling, but the courage to feel deeply without letting it consume you. So she lives with open hands, not tight fists. She loves with a full heart, not a guarded one. And when she hurts, she doesn't pretend she's fine. She just keeps breathing, through it, with it, in it. And that is a rare kind of beauty, not the polished kind, not the curated kind, but the type that comes from a soul that has looked itself in the eye and said, I see you, all of you, and I'm still here. She doesn't perform strength. She lives it, quietly, consistently, without spectacle. In a world that rewards dramatic declarations and displays, her strength moves differently. It isn't loud. It isn't theatrical. It doesn't demand applause. Her resilience reveals itself in the way she returns to herself, again and again, no matter how life shakes her. This is the fifth quiet truth. She is emotionally self-led, not because she's invulnerable, but because she's deeply anchored. She has felt disappointment without becoming bitter. She has walked through heartbreak without hardening her heart. She has been misunderstood, underestimated, even dismissed, and yet she does not collapse under it. She lets it pass through. She learns. She lets go. This is not the kind of woman who denies her emotions. She feels them fully, but she does not let them drive the wheel. She doesn't react on impulse. She doesn't retaliate to prove a point. Instead, she pauses, she breathes, and she chooses with intention. Carl Jung spoke often about becoming conscious of the forces within us, naming them, knowing them, so they no longer control us. This woman has done that work. She doesn't pretend her triggers don't exist. She knows them well, and because she knows them, they no longer dictate her actions. Her calm is not fake, it is earned. You see it in how she responds to conflict. She doesn't raise her voice, but her boundaries are unmistakable. She doesn't rush to fix everything, but she doesn't abandon you either. Her strength is the kind that creates safety, not fear. She is the kind of woman you trust in crisis, not because she has all the answers, but because she doesn't panic. She doesn't fold. She holds steady, with grace, with focus, with presence. Even when her world is unraveling behind the scenes, she does not make it someone else's burden, not because she wants to appear perfect, but because she understands. Calm is a responsibility, and she takes it seriously. But don't mistake her peace for passivity. She has fire. She has power, but it's directed, refined, mastered. She doesn't explode to feel heard. She doesn't collapse to feel loved. She holds herself, and in doing so, she teaches others how to hold her too. That kind of emotional maturity doesn't just make her irreplaceable, it makes her a rare presence in a world addicted to reaction. She does not beg for connection. She builds it, slowly, soulfully, with discernment. There is something unmistakable about the way she chooses people. It's never impulsive, never desperate. It's deliberate, intentional, rooted in something far deeper than attraction or convenience. This is the fourth quiet truth. She values connection, but never at the cost of her own essence. In a world that confuses availability with affection and constant communication with closeness, she is different. She's not always reachable, but she is present. When she's with you, she's truly with you. Eyes undistracted, heart open, mind engaged. She doesn't give her energy to everyone. Not because she thinks herself better, but because she knows her energy is sacred. She doesn't hand it over freely to those who haven't earned it. And that restraint is not coldness, it's clarity. Carl Jung spoke of the animus and anima, the masculine and feminine energies within us all. The woman who becomes irreplaceable is one who has cultivated both. She has learned to receive without dependence, to give without depletion. She knows how to be soft without losing her strength and strong without hardening her spirit. This balance allows her to create relationships that are not based on need, but on resonance. She does not cling. She does not chase. She simply aligns. If the connection deepens, it does so because it's real, not because it's forced. You'll never find her trying to convince someone of her worth. She doesn't compete for love. She doesn't ask to be chosen, because she has already chosen herself, fully, intentionally. And when she gives you space in her life, it's not out of loneliness, it's out of genuine desire. That kind of love born from freedom, not fear, is rare. It's the kind that doesn't suffocate, it doesn't manipulate, it invites. She knows the difference between attachment and intimacy, between being needed and being truly seen. And she will not stay in a bond where she is only a reflection of someone else's emptiness. She seeks depth, not performance. She wants the unpolished truth, not the edited version. And she will walk away from anything that asks her to dim, because her light is not up for compromise. And her connections are not built on convenience. They are forged in presence, patience, and truth. She doesn't shrink to be accepted. She expands, even if it makes others uncomfortable. There's a kind of woman who walks into a space and doesn't try to fit in. She simply is, fully, unapologetically, without adjusting her volume, her ideas, or her energy to suit the room. And strangely, it's this very refusal to bend that makes her unforgettable. This is the sixth quiet truth. She lives in full alignment with her values, even when it costs her something. Most people compromise parts of themselves to maintain peace, to avoid conflict, to be liked. But she has stopped editing her essence for the comfort of others, not because she wants to rebel, but because she finally realized that shrinking herself only breeds resentment and false belonging. There's a clarity in her now, a refusal to abandon herself for approval. She knows what she stands for, and she doesn't waver. Not because she's stubborn, but because she's deeply rooted in truth. This doesn't mean she's inflexible. She's open to learning. She listens. She evolves. But she no longer betrays her gut just to be agreeable. She knows the cost of self-abandonment, and it's one she's no longer willing to pay. Jung often spoke of the importance of individuation, the sacred path of becoming whole, of becoming oneself regardless of the roles imposed by society. The woman who lives in alignment has walked that path. She no longer needs to be everything to everyone. She just needs to be herself. And that's not always easy. Living in truth means sometimes standing alone, sometimes being misunderstood, sometimes walking away from what once felt like home. But she does it anyway. Because peace is not found in pleasing. Peace is found in presence with self. You can feel her integrity in the smallest things. She doesn't say what she doesn't mean. She doesn't promise what she can't hold. She doesn't perform affection just to keep someone close. She doesn't move through life trying to be liked by everyone. She moves through life becoming someone she deeply respects. And in doing so, she creates a kind of inner magnetism that can't be faked. That's the quiet power of living aligned. It doesn't shout. It doesn't need to. It simply exists, and those who are ready for it will feel it. Not on the surface, but deep, deep in the soul. She doesn't seek to be remembered. She simply lives in a way that cannot be forgotten. There is no grand strategy in her steps, no rehearsed lines, no calculated image. She moves from truth, and that alone makes her unforgettable. Not because she tries to leave a mark, but because she shows up in a world where most people only perform. This is the seventh quiet truth. She lives as her full self and lets that be enough. In a culture obsessed with legacy, with visibility, with curated perfection, she does something radical. She chooses realness over recognition. She doesn't build her life for applause. She builds it to feel whole. Carl Jung reminded us that the most powerful transformations happen not in the light, but in the shadows. Not in front of others, but within ourselves. And that is where she became who she is, not through approval, but through honesty. She has made peace with not being understood by everyone. She doesn't explain herself to those committed to misunderstanding her. She's not here to fit, she's here to live. You don't forget a woman like that. Because she doesn't give you a version of herself. She gives you the truth. And that truth might be quiet, but it's unshakable. She teaches others that love doesn't need to be loud to be deep. That presence doesn't need to be constant to be felt. That strength doesn't need to look like dominance. That beauty doesn't need to look like perfection. She doesn't ask for loyalty. She inspires it. She doesn't demand to be chosen. She becomes the obvious choice for those who are ready. But even if no one chooses her, she will keep choosing herself. That's the real secret. That's what makes her irreplaceable. Because when a woman has made peace with her own soul, when she is no longer at war with her past, her power, her truth, she becomes a force. Not the kind that storms in and takes over, but the kind that changes you quietly, permanently, without trying. And that is unforgettable.